Raise your hand if you'd like to ask anybody up here a question. Back there, please.
Thank you all. I'm from Great Neck, New York, on Long Island. I have a question for Mike Moynihan.
Yeah.
Kind of where you were going on the tariffs and stuff. I feel like there is a group of people, let's say, adjacent, who are pretty different from the conspiracy types of people, but who don't discount the expertise of people like economists or epidemiologists on COVID, but sometimes feel like that one expertise is overvalued. So in the case of COVID, when people would ask Fauci a question, he would say, well, I can't really comment on school closures because I'm an epidemiologist. Or people who might be more intellectual advocates of tariffs might say, well, these economists are right about prices, but there might be some like national security concern. Noam has made the point that tariffs aren't that different from unions if you really think about it. So
did he? When did he say that? Do you know him?
He said it on his podcast.
Oh, you listened to his podcast?
I had said one time that unions also raise wages and then end up raising prices.
Yeah, I don't like them either.
But we think it's worth the cost. I'm not pro
like
tariffs. I was just making an analogy.
Someone quoting you back to you.
Yeah.
That's flattered.
Is that the first time that's ever happened?
We're ready for the question.
So the question is, I guess like people in your position who I do feel have a really strong understanding of the issues, sometimes it feels like the way you speak about them pushes, let's say, the people who have these other concerns besides that, those experts, into the conspiracy bucket. And I'm curious.
I don't want to take responsibility for that. And if I do, then that's not my fault. I think that you're right in the sense that COVID was a moment that broke everyone. And it broke us in such a way that we don't want to talk about it anymore. And we don't even want to look back. I mean, I've for a long time advocated a sort of South African-style Truth and Reconciliation Committee about COVID. I mean, the weirdest things about COVID, like, people were washing their groceries and then they stopped. No one told them to stop, but they just assimilated that information from somewhere. And we never at the end of this had much of an accounting for anything. And the reason that I think that is really dangerous is because you're right. I mean, the experts were wrong. I mean, they were wildly wrong. I just think, generalizing that to that all of these other experts in every other field, you should question them. Well, of course you should.
What were they wrong about?
In COVID?
Yeah.
Masking schoos, who was dying, etc.
Washing groceries,
wearing gloves. I wore gloves for a little bit. That was really weird. I mean, I didn't. It was the beginning. It was like the first week.
But they weren't wrong about predicting that as a consequence of sort of simple math, that there was going to be...
Well, the math was off too, though.
No, but there was going to be hundreds of thousands of casualties as opposed to it's just going to run its course and be done by April.
I think one of the things, and I'll get back to the point of the question, but I think one of the things that helped Trump quite a bit was the number of people that I knew who were disaffected by what they thought were liberal ideas when it came to COVID in schools. Having their kids at home, the kids weren't dying. The teachers' unions were saying we can't go back. We're all gonna keel over, and that the kids are going to be super spreaders. That kind of stuff, I think, was very beneficial to the right and to.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but to the other stuff on the.
Why wasn't it detrimental when Trump said this is going to be over by April? Why wasn't it detrimental?
Nobody remembers that.
Pardon me?
Nobody remembers that.
I mean, his prediction. There was almost no response from the beginning. Because it's not going to
be... Again, it's when you bullshit so much, no one listens, right?
That's not bullshitting. That's just flat lying and not knowing that you are. So I'm bullshitting you right now.
No,
so
I know. I noticed that.
Yeah. You need another tequila?
I do. Can I get another tequila? No, I'm kidding. But on the... I'm not. But on the tariff thing, there aren't a lot of credible economists who say what Donald Trump says. The problem with what Trump says is that he promises so much from the tariffs. I mean, they literally say, debt deficit, which they often just, intermingle, will be solved by tariffs, which is so bananas that I just think they must be joking.
Yeah, it's so extreme.
It's so extreme and so crazy, but we will become wealthy through tariffs. And then talking about President McKinley, kind of a different economy now than it was during the McKinley time. So I think that kind of stuff is there are real arguments about tariffs. There's real arguments about globalization. There's a guy at MIT named David Otter who did a bunch of studies about that China did hollow out a lot of places in America. That was a real thing. We were not prepared for that. It was a net positive, but there was a lot of negatives. And when you don't pay attention to that stuff, you have populism as a result. But yeah, I experts in general and the conspiracy stuff, I think that Senator Kerry is right. Conspiracies are fun. People love them. It's the idea of secret knowledge. Have you ever had like a dinner conversation and somebody says, you say when Al Qaeda, attacked Lower Manhattan, and they're like, oh my God, this guy, he believes that. And they love this idea that they know something that you don't. So there's a whole kind of like weird taxonomy to conspiracy theories and why people like them. But I just think that they're everywhere now. And it's Tucker Carlson talks every day about the JFK files. You've got to be fucking kidding me. The JFK files. This is what is obsessing people. And the Epstein thing is now replacing it because it's like the JFK stuff, but more Jews. So they like the more Jews thing.
Did you say juice or Jews?
Jews.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a little juice in there too, but it's mostly about the Jews.